number 1 shank is right here. It's not here. This is number 2, and it's farther back by a couple inches. So you're more apt to plug here than here because there's more distance. From here to here, there's more distance from here to here. So if the wheel is, the rolling of the wheel is on this side, it helps keep this cleaned out. Okay, so if this wheel was over here and this wheel was over there, I think you'd improve your situation.
Okay.
But those are things that you see how it works, and if you need to make a change, you do. If it's working fine, don't need to change it.
Now I noticed with these two, they've kind of staggered them. The left one's the row,
Yes.
or number 1. The right one's the number
Yes.
1 here.
Yes.
Is that the correct way to?
That's how the standard way to set it up. And you see here when I put this back, I put it back to where this is straight across from here, and the way same way all the way across. That's
Okay.
the way it's done.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
We talked about extending this. I guess you could maybe go over maybe
Okay.
how far you would extend it out under different circumstances.
Okay. I think we were talking that if we made these like 14, I think 15. We went 15. If we were to put this sweep here at 15 inches, take this shank off, and this hardware here will be left on here, but take this shank and this piece here and put it back here at 30 inches, then we'd need another one at 45. And so if we put on about 12 more inches here, we could run 15, 15, and 15 on a 5 sweep setup.
Okay. And that's as long as you'd want to go
Yeah.
under.
Right. Now, if you take this hardware here and put one of these pieces here on here, you can move this and back and take this and move it here. You're going to have a 4 sweep setup with more distance for flow, for soil flow and organic matter.
Okay.
And have a 4 and string out your 4-step, because there are times where you'll have chances weeds can be bad enough that you can't get it to go through this setup where we got it set right now.
Okay.
And that's when you'll want to take this here, put it back here, and take this one and move it back. As you can see, when you move this back, this one here is not going to have much distance. It's pretty well going to butt right up against there. There's going to be about half that distance. Instead of 2 inches, there's going to be an inch.
Okay.
But as long as it follows correctly, and we didn't talk about that, but I lay the tape measure in the valley right there in that little notch and try to set it straight forward parallel to this. Okay, is it about parallel?
Yeah, maybe take your tape to you just a little.
Like that?
There you go.
Okay, and I want it to hit about midway of that back part of that sweep wing right there, like that. And the other side, did I move it too quick on you?
Yeah, we'll get this side.
And this side here does the same. Is it parallel about like that, see?
Yeah.
And that just gives me a line of sight so that we got good coverage for weeds. If a weed slips underneath this part that's going shallow here, this here will still cut it off. And also it lets this front shank will throw soil to the row underneath the fender, and then soil will come off this shank and cover up the weeds twice to the row from this shank. So we get 2 throws of soil to the row.
When you're adjusting your fenders, you talked about shoving a screwdriver in as a guide so you don't lose your depth.
And once you get them set, and one's too high, let's say, and you want to drop it down, I'll take a screwdriver or something, I'll shove it in the soil, and that way I can use the screwdriver for a reference as to where it's set at that point. And if I want to put it down, then I take my toe and hold it, I loosen the bolt, I push it down to where I want it in reference to the screwdriver, so I make sure I changed it from where it was, and then I tighten this back up. And it's easier to do in the field when you've got crop there, because then you can eyeball it and get your fenders set where they need to be set in relationship to the crop. And you can walk behind it and you can look at each row and see, well, those fenders are about right, and the sweeps and the shanks look about right. And you look at all of them, and you might notice one, it's like that shank looks a little close, and that fender looks a little close. Then you can adjust that one single one to look just like the others. The main thing is when you're all done and you're traveling 4.5 miles an hour through the field, that the right side of number 6 row over here, let's say, there's the same amount of dirt being thrown to it as there is coming in from the left side on number 6. Same with 5, same with 4, same with 3, same with 2, and same with 1. If you got one that's not throwing the dirt all the way up against the row, then something needs to change. You need to change the depth of the sweep, maybe shallow it up, maybe move it closer, maybe tip it in more, maybe raise a fender. You got to find a way to get that soil flowing off that sweep or around that shank that blast into the row equally. If you got one throwing too much, you lower a fender, you shallow a shank, you move the shank away, you do something so that you don't have that row being covered up when the other 5 are doing a perfect job. And really, you've got 12 points of consideration. The right side and the left side of each row, that's 12 points you got to watch. And when you get all 12 running perfect, you'll be the first person that's ever done it. Okay? But that's the key. When you're all said and done, no matter what your cultivator looks like and what you have to change to get that to happen, some fenders look like they're not set right. They look cattywampus to what they need to be, but it's the result that counts, not that your cultivator looks perfect. Okay? And I like the cultivator to look perfect as well as it do a perfect job, but sometimes you'll have a fender that you have to set it a certain way, it doesn't look right, or a shank needs to be some way or something and it doesn't look right, but if it does the job and gets the result, because running behind the tire tracks, you're going to get different results. The other reason why, I was telling Jeff this, we want this the same as when we get this one changed, all the way across here the same. Reason being is, all these shanks are going to be the same, okay? And you see where the shanks come out, right? Pretty much flush to the top, all right? When you're looking back from the tractor, you haven't got all day to turn around backwards and look at everything to inspect it. But if everything is the same height, all these are the same angle, all these are the same height in relationship to the soil or the ground, then this here will be parallel with this. Both of them will be parallel. And when you look back and you see one where this iron here is pretty much straight up and down, that's going to tell you that, oops, a fender slipped, okay? Or sometimes one will get jammed up like that and stay there. And you're going to look back and you're going to say, oops, something's wrong. But if you have this gang here running down here, okay, and this one here running up here, then some of these are going to be pretty straight, some of them are going to be pretty angling. And therefore you have no reference of what's right and what's wrong, so you look back and you don't know. As you can see right now, this is at a different angle of this right here. And when you're all done setting this up, they should all be, so you can look down right there and it looks like there's only one rod. You should be able to look down here and see across every one of the tops, and they can be one behind the other, perfect height.
The only other thing I can think of is you talked about a little cheat with adjusting these to get them to sink in or pull out. You know, depending on the soil type or the conditions behind the row or in a row that's undisturbed. You had talked about if they're down, they'll do one thing. If they're up, they'll do another thing.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon that happens. When you want your cultivator to go in deeper, you can literally force it in deeper with physics to a point. When you push, the more you put weight on this here, the more it pushes down on the sweep. But after you push too much, then all of a sudden, the sweep is trying to go out of the soil.
Okay.
At the same time, you're trying to push down. That's why we saw some of them today that are bent right here. Many of them got bent for that reason. They wouldn't go in the ground, so what they did is they lengthened their third length, tipped the cultivator back, and forced it in the ground when they were defeating the laws of physics because some other sweeps are setting flat, and they were trying to ski on top of the ground.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's so important that to get these set at the right angle, this one here, see, is set at too great an angle. It will want to throw slabs and slivers and suck in too much. And we just want those to skim on top. What holds us in is by putting the front ones down so they suck us in, and the back ones go along and just shave about the top inch of soil, and they're only working with the top inch and a half of soil.
Okay.